Yes, my people, we are still digging deep into some key factors about the Nigerian Biafran civil war.
Why were they taken unawares? I keep thinking, they've dubbed the first coup an Igbo coup. And
the first one was never an Igbo coup.
It was not an Igbo coup?
It was a Nigerian coup.
Can you explain?
It's Ademoyega, a Yoruba man. Is he an Igbo?
The author of this book?
Yes. Very, very intellectual.
It was not an Igbo coup?
It wasn't an Igbo coup. It was a coup of genuine Nigerians who were worried about Nigerians. Yes, they were young. Generational. It was the generation that brought them together. It was their willingness to risk their lives to have a better Nigeria that brought them together. It wasn't to put an Igbo man or create an Igbo empire. No. So he wasn't doing all of that.
Ifajuna was Igbo.
Yeah, was Igbo.
Onwatuegu Igbo.
Yes.
Most of the officers were Igbo officers.
What joined them together was intellect, intellectual revolt. We wanted better Nigeria. Most of them were educated. They were university graduates.
Most of the army officers, the guys in the east did not execute theirs.
Now, let us look at the truth of the circumstances.
Viewers, yes, we are talking about the Nigerian Biafra war and some facts many people don't know. And we are using this medium to let people be aware of these things, because if you don't know where the rain started beating you, you may not know when the rain will stop. So that is the point. So somebody, challenged me sort of that they want to hear another person from another angle, concerning that war and what led to that war. Today we are going to, show you this clip from Dr. Yemi. Dr. Yemi, of course, from his name, you know that he's not from Southeast. Tactically, I want to avoid any clip from the Southeast because many will view it as being biased based on that the 1966 coup was an Igbo coup, according to, that's on quotes. Many have that impression, but the truth has to be told. You are going to hear it from Dr. Yemi, whether it's an Igbo coup or not. This one is a different person, not Oloye. Oloye is the one I showed you the other day, but this one is a different person altogether and from his own angle. These days people find it difficult to open books. So we are bringing to you these things in a nutshell, the key points that you are supposed to get when it comes to that, civil war. So let's hear Dr. Yemi.
So at the meeting of the leaders of thought, they wanted Awolowo's forgiveness. By this time, Ojukwu in the eastern region had refused to recognize the authority of Gowon. Ojukwu seized federal assets in the east and confiscated federal revenue. He detained a civilian Nigerian airway flight that landed in Enugu. He refused to attend meetings of the Supreme Military Council. It was clear Nigeria was headed for a civil war. Did Awolowo react appropriately to Ojukwu's actions?
I think what he did, I'll put it in two ways. There were his thoughts and there were his actions. And I think the first was, of course, the West was in a very weak position. All the troops in the West were largely from the North. Because historically, the Westerners had always looked down on military. They've always thought it's only uneducated, lazy people that will join the army. So really, when you get to the army, then outside the medical corps and the education corps, you rarely find the Southwesterners. So all the barracks and military cantonments in the Southwest were peopled and officered by Northerners. Before the July event, perhaps there were some Easterners there that were in Abeokuta. Some of them in Ibadan. But when the return march happened, for their own safety, they ran. So the leadership of the army, Nigerian army in the West, were the arms of the Northerners.
Were all the Igbos in Abeokuta, did they run away, or some of them were also massacred?
Absolutely massacred, and the remaining had to run. They didn't run away, they ran in the interest of their life.
Why were they taken unawares? Okay, I keep thinking, they've dubbed the first coup an Igbo coup. And
the first one was never an Igbo coup.
It was not an Igbo coup?
It was a Nigerian coup.
Can you explain?
It's Ademoyega, a Yoruba man. Is he an Igbo?
The author of this book?
Yes. Very, very intellectual.
It was not an Igbo coup?
It wasn't an Igbo coup. It was a coup of genuine Nigerians who were worried about Nigeria. Yes, they were young, generational. It was the generation that brought them together. It was their willingness to risk their life, to have a better Nigeria, that brought them together. It wasn't to put an Igbo man or create an Igbo empire. No. Nzeogwu himself is Midwest Igbo. No? In normal parlance, he is not an original Igbo. So he wasn't doing all of that.
Ifajuna was Igbo.
Yeah, was Igbo.
Onwatuegu Igbo.
Yes.
Most of the officers were Igbo officers.
What joined them together was intellect, intellectual revolt. We wanted better Nigeria. Most of them were educated. They were university graduates.
Most of the army officers, senior army officers killed were from the north. The premier of the western region was killed. The premier of the northern region was killed. Michael Okpara was not killed.
That was a failure of individual operators.
Tell me more.
In planning the coup, they broke Nigeria into territories, and each person had roles he had to play. Nzeogwu was in charge of the north. When he moved, he sought even the support of Ojukwu, who never gave him support.
But Ojukwu knew about the coup.
Not before. He was not party to the planning of the coup, from everything I've read. But of course, for you to take over government, don't forget Nzeogwu was just a trainee officer, and he was using trainees. And Ojukwu was the commander in Kano. So he needed him. He reached out to him and he didn't give him support. So if it was an original Igbo coup, of course, Ojukwu would give him support and he would have taken over. Because they have the largest collection of military in the north. But he didn't. In the west, of course, it succeeded because the environment was against Akintola himself. So it was easy. And of course, because he reacted in a different way, he decided to fight. He decided to shoot. No other person did that. He was the only one. And of course,
when you say he decided to shoot, how?
When they captured his deputy. The military boys can be something else. They captured his deputy. So it was the deputy that led them to his house. It was he who spoke to him. He didn't know the military was, there had been a military movement. When he now discovered that Fanikaude had military boys waiting, he also had prepared for such days, not of military, but of civilian. He thought the operation where people would probably come to his house one day. So he took his submachine gun and opened fire.
You know, mind you, he had been warned of a coup.
Yes, which was why a day before the coup, he flew to the north to discuss it with Sardauna. And Sardauna said it was impossible.
That it was impossible.
Because he was sure of the Northern Command. And he was sure of the loyalty of Agui Ironsi. And Agui Ironsi had no reason not to be loyal to them. It was not to be the GOC. It was not recommended by the military. The outgoing General Everard or what? Never recommended him.
Did he recommend Babafemi Ogundipe?
He didn't either. I think he recommended Malamari. But Balewa and Sardauna opted for Ironsi. They said, let's keep seniority. So why would Ironsi want to fight them? No reason. Absolutely none. So he had no reason to be part of conspiracy.
They didn't see Nzeogwu coming.
Nobody. And that's what happens to politicians.
But there was movement of troops in Kaduna. It was clear.
It was just for training. And he does that regularly. Even from evidences, those troops didn't know what they were doing until they got to points of action. They thought Nzeogwu would carry them, he would train them, but he was a revolutionary. And they are always in the midst of decadence, some revolutionary. In the midst of darkness, there will be one source of light.
Wasn't he too brutal? Wasn't he too brutal? The way Ahmadu Bello was murdered. Was Nzeogwu not too brutal?
When you look at it today, you would think so. But at that time, a failure at that point was the end. And you know, he's a military man, a young man, well trained. He went to Sandhurst. Sandhurst was the best training center in the British Commonwealth. He knew that if he failed, he's death. So it's either you die or you kill. And he knew if he was unable to penetrate the Sardauna hegemony, that was the end of the coup. And he believed that the feudalism they were talking about, you know, any Marxist, and there are many in the South there, any radical, you criticize the feudalism in the North. And he was seen as the epitome, was the Sardauna, next in rank to the Sultan. So he wasn't just a premier, he also had religious control. So for him not to fail, you don't operate like, how would I call it, a shooter. You do what you call a spray shooting. I must kill this one. Because if I don't, that will be the end of the exercise. And he was the leader. So he assigned to himself the most difficult assignment. So if he failed, everything.
The guys in
but
the east...
looking backward now, it will look brutal.
Because he took Ahmadu Bello's wife along.
They took Sodende's wife along too.
The guys in the east did not execute theirs.
Now, let us look at the truth of the circumstances. They've just had a Commonwealth meeting in Lagos. And all of them have been going away. And most of them were aware there would be a coup because they had better intelligence. through the embassies. But we still had Archbishop Macarius around, who was visiting the East, as at the day of the action. You have to look at the international dimension to it. You attack Okpara with Macarius. So that was a possibility. I'm doing my own analysis now.
Yes.
And in this matter, we have to be objective analysts. Will he kill Archbishop Macarius alone? So he had to stay home for Macarius to leave. But Coup had already started. And because it was Ifeanyi Juna that had responsibility for that, a lot of people now interpret it. And they may be right. But from the way I look at the international dimension to it, it may just be, let's wait until Macarius will leave. Action had happened in the north. It had happened in the west. There was no need for the Midwest, because there was a new state, a new region, and there was no environmental hostility to the incumbent government the way it was. And Dennis Osadebe, who was there, in the political calculation, was not a significant element. So it is possible that sheer incompetence of Ifeanyi Juna, or ethnic sentiment, or international political sentiment, out of those three could have interfered with him.
But was there any reason to take out Okpara? The environment was friendly to Okpara at the time.
Actually, I don't believe it could have been part of the original plan. I wasn't part of it. I'll be able to read it. If those coup planners thought that the man to lead Nigeria was Awolowo, and his political partner is Okpara, why would they want to kill him? Let's look at it objectively. Part of the causes of the coup was the 1964 federal election. Action Group, SNC formed OPGA. In the absence of Awolowo, they had a joint leadership, as it were. Okpara and the wife of Awolowo. And they campaigned together all over Nigeria. So when you look at it analytically, it will be strange if people thought that this rubbish, and they thought this rubbish was based on feudalism. There's no feudalism in this. They thought there were partners and collaborators with feudalists in the West. They eliminated them. They thought there were also collaborators in Lagos. That had to do with Okutiebo, Balewa. They eliminated them. So what would be the reason for dealing with the co-leader of what they saw as the only hope for Nigeria?
Azikiwe left the country before the coup.
If Azikiwe had been in the country, they will eliminate him.
You think so?
I believe so.
Why did he leave? Did he have premonition of the coup?
He probably did, and because that is him. I believe that Azikiwe will always look for safe ground. He did that 1951-52. You had to have a lecture, a very radical lecture against the British government. He now planned the lecture. It was still an NCNCA there. It was not a national group. Every young man loved Azikiwe. They loved his intellect. They loved his grandiloquence. And they followed him. But came lecture time, Azikiwe has disappeared, as usual.
Why?
I think there's some cowardice in him.
Some cowardice.
I think so.
So the point you make is that it wasn't an Igbo coup.
I'm trying my mind in that.
I am discussing with Dr. Yemi Farumbi, looking at the background to the war.
So, what you heard in this video, is it in conformity with what you know about the Nigeria-Biafra war? What is the way forward? Like I used to say, Aburi is the solution to the growth of this country. Nigeria would have gone further if the white man did not come in to distort our peaceful coexistence, But it's as if they are using it as a kind of revenge from, should I say, untimely or unexpected independence that Nigeria got. Well, I'll leave it at that, but I still want to believe that the present system of governance in Nigeria has to be changed. And I bet you if these systems are changed, it's going to douse this tension of agitation. I am very, very sure of that. No place is that safe now. The north, Boko Haram are there, in the southeast, southwest, everywhere, katakata, everywhere. So let there be a lasting solution. Enough of this bloodshed. Let people know the truth of what happened. And please don't forget, if you have your own contribution based on what we are talking, please drop it on the comment section. It's still me, Chinedu, from YangaLife channel. Thank you.